Glass, right? Wasn't that guy's name? The bad
Ron
guy?
Silver?
Silver. Ron Silver.
Glass.
Why am I thinking Glass?
Duke Silver.
His name was George Glass.
Ron Silver. Yeah.
Ron Swanson, Duke Silver. Any Parks and Recs fans here? No, just me. All right.
The movie's stupid. That show is
not a movie.
That's why I just said show.
That show's awesome. You're just a grumpy old man.
I'm very grumpy today.
You are very grumpy today. You leave my dinosaurs alone, sir.
Is your back hurting?
No, my mouth is.
Oh.
I got a dentist appointment tomorrow.
I have some BioFreeze for you if you want to put it on your back before you go.
Or you can swallow it and numb your mouth up.
Yeah. Maybe it'll make you shut the up.
Wow. Welcome back.
We didn't even have to do anything to you that time.
Okay.
You ever been with a big man?
You ever been? Say it.
I'm not doing it. You ever been with a big man?
There it is.
I can't. That sounds terrible.
Your heart wasn't in it. Welcome back to another episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your host, the Salty Nerd, and today's a very special episode. We're going to be talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme, the 80s action icon, as part of our hashtag June-Claude Van Damme podcast. We're going to be doing 2 episodes dedicated to him.
Two?
Mm-hmm. This weekend, next week, buddy.
Okay.
First off, we're going to be discussing Bloodsport, the classic 80s fighting movie. Kumite. You ever been with a big man? Okay, USA. Yeah, that movie. We're also going to be talking about Universal Soldier and Timecop, which is my personal favorite out of these 3. And we're going to have a great time today. I am joined by my podcast hosts, co-hosts, and cohorts, and nerds, and panelists, and whatever you want to call them, starting with Matthew Kadish. What's up, man?
Not much.
Wow.
Oh,
and
man of many words.
And Jude, the ambassador of estrogen. What's up?
Hi.
And Matt Vader, the grumpy barbarian. How you doing, man?
I'm in pain.
You're in pain?
I'm in pain. Yeah.
Taking it out on the world?
That's right.
All right, cool.
Dinosaurs are dumb.
Dinosaurs are not dumb.
Man.
Take that, Jurassic June.
Listen, don't take it to heart because he hates everything. He hates Jean-Claude Van Damme. He hated
Star Wars month.
I hate everything.
He hates dinosaurs.
I'm Grumpy Smurf.
He hates structure to the shows. I like it when we just show up and talk about stuff.
That's right.
He hates
I don't believe in
Zendaya.
trying to take notes.
No, he loves Zendaya.
His thoughts. All right, anyway, let's get into it. Enough fluff. Bloodsport.
Enough fluff.
Jeebers. No such thing, sir.
No such thing in this podcast. Bloodsport. Let's talk about Bloodsport real quick.
Yeah.
Kadish, why don't you set the stage for us? What the heck is this movie all about?
So it's about a secret underground fighting tournament where the best martial artists from around the world come to find out who the best of the best are. And it's based off of a quote-unquote true story of the life of a gentleman named Frank Dux.
Dukes.
Dukes. It's
Frank
French. Dukes.
Dukes.
D-U-X. And basically this is a guy who claimed that in the 70s and 80s he was basically a ninja who secretly worked for the CIA and was formerly of the military. And according to him, he held all these world records in this secret underground fight club that he traveled the world as champion for. And he basically pitched this idea to Hollywood, and someone at Cannon Films thought it was a good idea to make it into a movie. And it was the first big starring role of Jean-Claude Van Damme, and who plays the character of Frank Dux.
Dukes.
Like, put up your dukes.
Yeah, Frank Dukes.
Is that going to be the thing? He's going to say it wrong and we're going to say it right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically the movie is about this underground no holds barred fight club tournament that Jean-Claude Van Damme has to participate in. And he faces a series of very dangerous opponents in a ever increasing high stakes game of blood sports.
Right on. And I can't say if there is a theatrical version or a theatrical experience that I've had because I was obviously far not born yet when this movie came out, and I don't remember the first time I saw it. So I don't know. Did any of you guys see it in the theaters?
No.
I don't remember.
You don't remember, Kadish?
Oh no, I've only ever seen this movie on home video.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might have.
Or TV because it played a lot on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my first experience with it was probably on TV, and then later I watched the actual movie. I rented it or something.
What year did it come out?
88?
I was born in 88.
I probably did see it.
You saw it? in
I
theaters?
probably did. Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 18.
Oh, that would have been perfect for you.
That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah. Nice. I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's terrible.
How dare you?
How dare you, sir?
I'm sorry. It's just not good. I mean, it's fun and it's cheese, like 80 cheese fighting stuff. But it, like, if you put it up against any other movie that is like a AAA blockbuster movie, it just does not hold up. I mean, the best actor in this movie is Donald Gibb. 100%. He's got the best delivery of his lines. He's got the most realistic fight scene. He's the man.
What about the girl? I believed that she fell in love with him and didn't want to see him get hurt.
What about Forrest Whitaker?
Forrest Whitaker, yeah, young Forrest Whitaker was in this.
Yeah, I had forgotten he was in it. I
did
I go, whoa.
I like that scene where Jean-Claude Van Damme meets Donald Gibb for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're playing a video game.
Yep.
And there's that moment where they look at each other and they're like, did we just become best friends?
They're playing an arcade Street Fighter game.
No, it was a karate game.
Yeah.
And
The same thing, Street Fighter.
And they were like, hey, can you keep a secret? I'm here for a underground fighting tournament.
Yeah.
Don't tell
Oh my
anybody.
God, me too. Crazy.
We're all staying at the same hotel.
Yeah. He's like, aren't you a little old to be fighting in a tournament? And he's like, aren't you little to be fighting in a tournament?
All the one-liners in this are fantastic.
You know, when Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally picked to play Frank Dukes was the fighting choreographer on set, and he said he's not in good enough shape to play me. And he made him go through like 3 months of specialized training in order to play him.
Wow. What an ego on that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't it come out that he was like a complete con artist?
Oh, he's a total sociopath.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically, everything he's ever claimed has been complete fabrication.
Verified false.
He was never in the army. He didn't have any of those world records, like, at all. Never worked for the CIA.
We talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No,
We're talking about Frank.
The real
Frank Dukes.
Yeah.
The real.
But it's kind of funny because this was the movie that put Jean-Claude Van Damme on the map.
Right.
And the guy who produced this movie, Menahem Golan, he was an Israeli film producer, and he was the head of the Cannon Group, Cannon Films, which basically produced this movie. And the way that Jean-Claude got this part, because up to this point, like he was a nobody. He'd been like in supporting roles.
He just was like running a gym.
Something like that. He was doing all types of stuff, like delivering pizzas and stuff. And he was driving down La Cienega one day, and he saw Menahem Golan walking down the street with like a friend. And Jean-Claude Van Damme recognized him.
Didn't he pretend to know him?
Yes.
Okay.
So like what happened was he pulled over to the side of the road and got out. And you guys remember that scene in Timecop where the rollerblading purse snatcher, he like throws a kick that stops like 2 inches in front of his face?
Yeah.
So like he goes up to this big producing guy who's just walking down the street minding his own business and does that. He just throws a kick to his face where he's doing like the high split kick type thing. It stops like 2 inches in front of this guy's face, and he's like, Mannheim, I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's like, you should put me in a movie. And
Wow.
And Mannheim was like, wow, that was really impressive. You know what? I like your moxie, kid. So like he went back to his office and he was like, is there a movie we can put?
Start looking through scripts, right?
Yeah. Is there a movie we can put this lunatic in? And they went through like a bunch of different ones until they settled on Bloodsport. And they were like, okay, put Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport. But the funny thing about this movie is that apparently the first cut of it was so bad that the same producer like just put it on a shelf, and he's like, I'm never releasing this movie.
It got shelved for like a full year, right?
Yeah, and basically, like the movie just didn't make any sense. And Jean-Claude Van Damme and the screenwriter kind of got together, and Jean-Claude Van Damme actually edited all the fight scenes in the movie.
Really?
Yeah. And so like basically he fixed all the fight scenes. So like they had all the fight scenes for this movie done, but the movie itself was just like a mess. And so they talked Mannheim to bring in this guy. His name was Michael J. Duthie, I think is how you pronounce it. And he was kind of the in-house fixer for Cannon Films, because Cannon was just known for like making these low-budget schlock movies. So like they had this guy on staff who would kind of come in and fix all the bad movies for them.
I'm a fixer.
Yeah. So like he was a really good editor who basically came in and he completely restructured Bloodsport from like the footage that they had and turned it into what it was. And so like when they did their next test screening, audiences loved it. But Mannheim was so convinced that Jean-Claude Van Damme was box office poison that he was like, maybe I'll put it in direct to video. And everyone's like, dude, you got like a big hit on your hands. He's like, no, I don't like Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's a loser. He's never going to amount to anything. And basically Mannheim had this big boner for this guy named Michael Dudikoff, who was in like a lot of different Cannon films at the time. I think he was in all the ninja films they ended up making.
Yeah, that name is very familiar.
Yeah, so like he originally wanted Michael Dudikoff for this role, but he was like too tall to play Frank Dukes. So basically Jean-Claude Van Damme got this role, and Mannheim just like had it in for Van Damme for some reason. He was like, I'm not going to release this thing. And they're like, why don't we do like a limited release and just see how it does? So they released it in 3 cities. I think it was like Seattle, San Diego, and Los Angeles. And that limited release made the movie's budget back and more just in those 3 cities. And so they're like, well, shit, maybe we should release it.
People love kung fu movies.
So like they put it out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they put it out there.
What else was
became
there?
a huge hit.
It's a lot of people's bread and butter, man. Those 80s action flicks, those over the top cheese, big strong dude.
I like how this movie
people.
I like how this movie like set the precedent for every single Van Damme trope.
Yeah. It really did.
It
did.
With the nut shots and the splits and the slow motion look on his face, as he, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that slow motion scream thing, silent scream thing.
I do that all the time.
It's like I remember my brother's like 4 years younger than me, and I remember him and all his friends. They do like kumite matches out in the barn. It was fun.
Kumite.
Can we talk about some of the fighters that he had to go
You
up
should be
against?
wearing your kumite shirt.
I should be, but it's dirty.
It's got blood on it.
I'm pretty sure that this movie might have had somewhat of a influence on the Ultimate Fighting kind of.
Well,
the
this
UFC?
was
Yeah.
UFC.
This was UFC.
For
Before
sure.
UFC took off, yeah.
Yeah, mixed martial arts. This is the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Bare knuckle.
I think they started UFC, broadcasting it, I think in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Early 90s?
I mean, I'm sure it existed.
it was these mixed martial art type tournaments that eventually led to becoming an organized sport.
So it's like I remember this movie came out, and then I don't think it was too long after this movie came out, a couple of years maybe, that you see like UFC 1 and 2, which were literally no holds barred fights of these guys with these different techniques.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the Greco-Roman wrestler versus the Kung Fu champion, and they were pretty cool. And there was no weight classes. You'd have like this 95-pound dude going up against this giant 400-pound sumo wrestler.
Yeah, it was literally anything goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some would say it's the purest form of mixed martial arts. Like nowadays it's too regulated almost.
Yeah, it was wild. I remember watching this.
Well, do you remember the scene in this movie where they were breaking bricks? And it was like, nobody's ever done that before.
The death touch.
He's death touch, yeah.
Donald Gibbs' character, he's like, see this one right here? I'm going to break that one. It's the one on top. He just smashes it.
But then like everyone's like unimpressed, so he takes one and breaks it with his head. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, Donald Gibbs is the best character in this whole friggin' movie.
So that trick that they did in the movie, that was like a made up thing for the movie. I think whatever they called it is actually like some kind
touch.
Of they had like a Chinese name for it, but whatever word they used was actually like some kind of like medical procedure or something.
Like this whole movie was just so thrown together. Like I remember reading a story about how originally like all the costumes for it, like they bought them at some local store in China while like on the location they were shooting at, and it was like silk pajamas. And Frank Dux was like, "What are you kidding me? This isn't what we wore." And so like he basically bought a bunch of bike shorts and just like bedazzled them.
Yeah.
like put on like all the decorations and stuff and gave them to the actors, and he's like, "Here, wear this." But it's funny because in addition to this thing kind of being an inspiration for UFC, the movie itself, Bloodsport, was the inspiration for the game Mortal Kombat.
Right.
Originally, the company that made Mortal Kombat was hired to create a Universal Soldier game, and that, for whatever reason, fell through. But they already had all these like models and stuff done, and they were like, you know what? Let's just make a fighting game. And so like they based the character Johnny Cage on Jean-Claude Van Damme's character in Bloodsport, and you know they made him like this Hollywood star. But like if you look at the original Mortal Kombat, Johnny Cage's
absolutely him.
Yeah, Johnny Cage's outfit is the exact outfit Jean-Claude Van Damme wore, and stuff like that. So I mean, you know, it's kind of funny to say Bloodsport was like a big pop culture influence going forward into the 90s, but it really was.
Sure
It's undeniable. Even as much as I like to kind of like pick fun at it, but it inspired a lot of the culture in the 80s and 90s.
Also, this movie holds the world's record for longest flashback scene.
Really?
In a movie, yeah. It's
when he was training with his sensei?
It's like 10 minutes and 40 seconds long. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, if the entire movie is not a flashback, it's just like a actual like flashback in a movie, this movie holds the record for the longest flashback.
Nice. So I wanted to talk about the fighters. I thought it was pretty interesting that like each country of origin had like its own fighting style. Like the French dude who was like basically a kickboxer, I think, but he had like some weird stance that he was doing. I thought the fighting styles were amazing. And then
they were all real.
They were all real, even
even the monkey guy,
the monkey dude. I was like,
that's kung fu monkey style.
Yeah.
Monkey style kung fu. Drunken monkey.
They actually didn't have any stuntmen on this movie. It was all 100%
and
just the actors.
That's something that I find fascinating when we did our, well, it was a long time ago now, but we did our The Matrix movie reviews and stuff like that and deep dive into that. And The Matrix was actually the trendsetter for actually putting actors into action movies and training them to look like they know how to fight. Before that, it was actual fighters just put into a movie,
right?
Which is a lot of times why the dialogue is kind of corny and the acting isn't that great. It's because these people are legit fighters.
Actors.
Yeah, they're not actors. Mm-hmm. So when the Matrix came out, they kind of set a new trend, and that's the trend that we see today, where we have these big action stars that go and train for 3-4 months under some guy, and then they pretend like they know how to fight. But
what was interesting about the actors, they were fighters with their own particular fighting styles, portraying fighters with different fighting styles. And I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, like Chong Li, the character of Chong Li was a kung fu fighter. But he's played by, what's his name? Bolo Young. He does do kung fu, but his preference is actually Tai Chi. And Frank Dukes developed his own fighting style called ninjutsu, which was like ninja guerrilla warfare.
What a dork.
Yeah. Portrayed by Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's kickboxer or karate. No, he's not a kickboxer. It's, I want to say just karate.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting that there's like so many different fighting styles. And I think they just like threw a bunch of fighters in a movie, and they were like, "Well, just pretend like you do kung fu." And they're like, "Oh, I do jujitsu. That's completely different." You'll be fine. Nobody will know. Not for like 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. Until people start analyzing movies.
Yeah.
But also the music in this movie, it was done by that guy who did We Got the Touch from the Transformers movie.
I bet it was.
It was. And if you listen to like the big... if you listen to that song, Fight to Survive, it sounds just like We Got the Touch. We got the touch.
Kumite, kumite, kumite.
It's a great montage song.
Montage. Yeah.
Montage. There were a lot of montages in this movie.
Was there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There's tons. There's the training montage, the flashback. There's the actual fighting montage of when they were in the sport.
I guess so.
Because they kind of just flash through a bunch of different fights while
it's not a good 80s movie if there's no montage.
Yeah.
It's just not.
It's got to be.
Surprising lack of boobs for an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's man boobs. Moobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a lot of that flexing going on. That's a good gif. When I posted the picture of like we're doing Jean-Claude Van Damme podcast, like a ton of people posted the gif of like the dude just flexing his chest, bouncing his tits back and forth.
What's the matter, sweetheart? Too pretty for you?
It's a great movie, man. It's so much fun. Like like on a technical level, if you want to talk about acting and editing and pacing and all that stuff, it's kind of a mess.
I love this movie.
But it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a guilty pleasure for so many people. I can't complain about it that much. Like I can tease.
Classic.
Yeah,
it's a
I'm
classic.
never not in the mood for this movie. Like you could just be like, I don't know what to watch. You want to watch Bloodsport? I'd be like, yes.
Yes.
Let me find my Kumite shirt.
Do you guys think it had that kind of Rocky Balboa underdog story for a little while, right? Because he lost the first fight.
Actually, I was going to say that this movie is like a complete rip of Rocky IV.
Yeah.
like Rocky IV came out, I think, like 3 years earlier. And like if you look at the story to Rocky IV and this story, it's pretty much the exact same arc to it. So it wasn't a very creative movie.
I don't know. I've never really got that.
Every movie is that focuses on an underdog going up as a superior force is Mighty Ducks is the same thing as Rocky. Rocky is the same thing as Rocky IV.
Well,
I never
there's
really
formula to it.
There's only 11 original stories,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So when you're talking about fighting stories and you want to have an underdog story so that the audience can attach to the main character.
I never thought of him as an underdog in this.
Really?
No. I've always thought of him as he trained for his whole life and he was going to go over there and get that sword for his sensei. I don't think he ever thought of himself as an underdog.
But he had to prove himself because he doesn't look like a Tanaka.
Yeah. I mean, I've never thought of this movie as an underdog story.
I guess he did specifically train just to do this one thing for most of his life, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good point. He's not really an underdog, huh? I don't know.
Like, I'm a badass. None of these people know it. So I'm going to have to show it to him, but I don't think he ever questioned himself.
Technically, he wasn't training his whole life. He was basically allowed to watch the training his whole life. It wasn't until after the son died that Tanaka started training him.
And he mastered the skill of the split. I love that scene where Donald Gig comes in and he's sitting there like meditating and he's in his splits and Dog's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, he's like, "You might want to have kids one day."
That's funny.
Also, the two guys sent to retrieve him, Forrest Whitaker and the older guy. I love how like their most intimidating move is to take out these massive tasers.
What? Yeah, what were those things? Those were absurd looking.
1988 tasers.
Yeah,
they look like those oversized emergency flashlights that you keep in the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll pump you full of 50,000 volts.
You know, I thought was funny.
But that also started, speaking of tropes.
Lies, deception.
Yeah. But lots of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies have tasers in them.
Really?
So, yeah.
Huh.
Timecop.
Timecop, yeah.
What were you about to say, Alex?
I was going to say the whole chase scene where they're chasing him down, trying to capture him because he's doing something highly illegal, and they're
That
trying
was
to
so hijinksy.
Oh my gosh, he's like jumping over boats and stuff like through the water, and they're trying
waving
to chase
at
him.
him.
But after he loses them, he just goes back to his hotel where they found them in the first place.
And then they become good buddies, right?
Yeah, that's the funniest part is like after they catch him and they're like, "You're going to jail, kid," and they're like, "No, I have to go," and they're like, "All right, we'll come with you."
We'll take you home after you're done. It's like, okay.
They go to the fight with him and they're in the crowd cheering.
Yeah, they're like, this Kumite stuff's pretty cool.
This is pretty awesome. We love this stuff.
I'm not going to get hurt.
What do you guys think about that final battle?
Oh man,
It's classic.
Gosh,
I mean, I like how they raised the sides up and
they made it like a V.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that final battle made Jean-Claude's career right there.
that slow motion nut punch.
Hell yeah!
Well, that was
that was before.
That was the
That
big guy before
That's
him.
right.
yeah.
But you know,
the sand in the eye.
That
or
was the
something?
salt.
Fighting dirty.
Yeah, and it paid off the setup for him training to do everything with the blindfold.
The
on.
flashbacks
Set up
of the
and payoff.
blindfold. Yeah.
Set up and payoff. There it is. This is a good movie.
Yep, well
Stamp of
structured.
It
approval.
has
Writing
everything.
approved. Okay, we're good.
It's got setup. It has payoff.
Okay, USA.
Okay,
That's my
USA.
favorite part of the whole movie is that guy saying "Okay, USA," giving him a thumbs up because I love it.
What about the hairstyles in this?
Oh, it's classic.
I mean,
Very
they're
80s, very
gorgeous.
80s.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
Like and Jean-Claude Van Damme's manager guy is just rocking that.
The mullet.
Oh, yeah.
the mullet, 80s
And
mullet?
I love a man with a bandana. Heck yeah. Come on over here, sweetheart.
Had a bandana on just yesterday.
Not on your face, on your head.
No, it was on my head.
And the female reporter who just hangs out in hotel lobbies trying to seduce guys who
Dude.
look like they fight to get information.
How about
out
that initial, like, I get the girl,
Yeah,
or you get the girl? And she's just like, you guys.
I'm not for sale. That was, I'm like, you would
Classic
not be able to,
80s.
you would not be able to get away with that today. There's no way.
Yeah, like she had no say in it.
No,
Yeah.
not so. She's like,
They were like-
Jean-Claude's like, relax, I got this.
They're
Yeah.
like, you want
just-
the woman, you take the woman.
It's just a sad statement. They wouldn't be able to make this movie today. Well, fuck that.
I'm with you,
it's just
man.
it's so dumb.
People will be very upset on
I
Twitter.
don't care.
Twitter folks. Would
Oh,
be very
Twitter
upset.
people would be upset.
Twitter people, would be, the keyboard warriors would be very upset.
Wow, I'm scared.
They basically said selling a woman is okay in this movie. They're
There's also-
sexist.
Also, a lot of ADR in this movie because so many of the fighters, like you could barely understand them because
Yeah.
they didn't speak English. So, like they were overdubbing their lines.
I love the main bad guy had like what 2 lines or something. Like all he said was like, "I'm gonna kill you" or "You're next."
You're next.
You're next.
But you could always tell
Well, he
it
didn't
wasn't
speak
his
English.
voice.
It wasn't his voice.
He didn't speak English when they filmed this.
Yeah.
He had very limited English.
Yeah.
And he was in that Bruce Lee movie Enter the Dragon. Wasn't
He
he?
knew Bruce Lee. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were friends.
Yep. Great movie. Any final thoughts on Bloodsport, the most popular Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, according to my Twitter poll with 180 votes?
It's definitely up there with like the classic '80s action movies like Commando and you know all the.
You can't talk about 80s action movies without
Without Jean-Claude.
Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Nope.
Right on. Next movie we're going to be talking about is Universal Soldier. But before we get there, I wanted to mention everybody that's listening, you guys can support the podcast. Go to saltynerdclub.com. That takes you straight to our Patreon page. Throw us some cheddar, donate to the podcast. It helps us to make more content. You'll have access to exclusive podcasts that we record just for the patrons, varying subjects. We even get feedback from our patrons themselves, and they pick the subject sometimes. So if you would like to support the podcast and get some cool exclusive content and probably a couple stickers, go to saltynerdclub.com, and that'll take you straight there, and you can do your thing. All right, let's talk about Universal Soldier. This is the first time I've ever watched this movie was for this podcast.
Really?
Really.
Did you
I'd
love it?
I didn't.
Oh my God. You're an idiot. You don't know what good things are.
This was the first time I'd watched this in a long time, and it didn't age
It
very
did
well.
not age well. No. I mean, I love Jean-Claude and I love Dolph Lundgren. Lundgren? How do you say his name?
Lundgren.
Lundgren. Awesome pairing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the idea behind the movie and just the way that they present it, just no. It was so
Not very
corny.
cost effective.
Not very. We have $250,000 invested in that guy. And he's sitting there and he's on fire walking around. Like, and they have to be kept cool with ice, like for some reason. I was like,
Because they'll overheat.
because they'll overheat. Like, what's the point of having like this basically robotic humanoid that runs around that overheats?
Are you going to set the stage before you get
Oh,
super
sorry.
into
Yeah,
it?
I'm my bad. Kate, set the stage for this movie. What is Universal Soldier all about?
So it's about a secret government program that takes dead soldiers and reanimates them to be the ultimate soldier. And since they're already dead, they can't feel pain or have to worry about, getting killed
You
again.
can technically own a dead body.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And
Legal.
and they're able to regenerate when being put on ice. And it's basically Jean-Claude Van Damme. He was a Vietnam soldier who died in combat, and he's brought back as a universal soldier. And throughout the course of his universal soldiering, he starts remembering his previous life as a soldier, and with the help of a intrepid and beautiful young reporter, he remembers who he is and kind of absconds from the program. And so in an effort to get him back, they send all the universal soldiers after him, and he has to fight them off and protect his family and his new love interest at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of the other Universal soldiers is Dolph Lundgren, who is the soldier who was with him in Vietnam, who actually killed him. So
Yeah.
they have their own little.
You want to set up the whole dynamic between those two? Tell the audience what happened at the beginning of the movie.
So
It was a flashback
it's
to Vietnam.
Dolph Lundgren is his sergeant, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah.
And he starts to go nuts and just starts killing people willy-nilly,
Collecting ears.
collecting
Do
ears.
you hear me? And he holds the necklace up.
He's bonkers. I love that guy. And Jean-Claude Van Damme is trying to save some
Local.
innocent locals that Dolph Lundgren, I forget either of their names, that Dolph Lundgren has kidnapped and he's about to murder. And Dolph Lundgren determines that Jean-Claude is a traitor and kills him. And then they both end up dying, and then they both become a part of this program. So their dynamic throughout the movie starts to come through. Dolph Lundgren starts to remember who he was. He starts to go bananas. Also, he takes over. Hijinks ensue.
So, later on in the movie, it's kind of stated that it's been 25 years since Vietnam. So they took the dead bodies and put them on ice and waited 25 years until the technology.
Cryogenetics.
Yeah, until the technology could catch up to the idea of like reanimating soldiers. Like
Maybe
I'm
they
assuming.
already had it.
So they've been Universal Soldiers for 25 years?
No,
Do you know if there's any...
They'd had the program going since Vietnam because they were losing so many troops in Vietnam. They wanted a way to kind of salvage them because they invest so much money training these guys.
Yeah.
So the program, the Universal Soldier program, had been around for a long time, which is why they preserved those bodies from Vietnam. And I think that they had been moderately successful going like in the 80s, and then like they were kind of perfecting the technology going into the 90s because this movie came out in 92.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah. So basically, by the time this movie picks up, the Universal Soldier program has run out of funding, and so they're looking for some high-profile incidences where they could showcase like how effective their soldiers
to get
are
public reception. Okay.
in order to get public support, but also more funding to continue the program. And originally, the script actually made the military out to look a lot more kind of nefarious. Like in the original script, the opening Hoover Dam scene. So like the movie opens with Hoover Dam being taken over by terrorists, and they're holding all these hostages, and the Universal Soldiers have to go in there and save them. But originally, in the script, they had the terrorists were actually mercenaries that the military hired to stage this attack for the sole purpose of showcasing like, you know, how effective their Universal Soldiers are. And so like there was like a lot of like stuff like that. But at this time, when the movie was being made, people were very patriotic because it was around the time of the Gulf War and stuff like that. So they had like a lot of support for the military. So they were like, well, maybe we should kind of, you know, pull back on
Tone
the
that down a little bit.
A little bit
military
of
are evil.
propaganda. A little bit of propaganda.
A little bit. So like they made the military out to look a little bit less evil.
Maybe let's not plant that seed.
But it's kind of funny because you know how I just said that Bloodsport was kind of like a ripoff of Rocky IV. This movie is pretty much a ripoff of RoboCop. Like if you look at it, it's pretty much the exact same storyline.
Oh, yeah. I got to admit, I think I've seen RoboCop like once forever ago. It's not in my repertoire of like...
I've never seen it.
You've never seen RoboCop?
Never
I don't see RoboCop in this movie.
What?
I don't know where you're getting this stuff
Well,
because I don't see it at all.
it's about a character who gets killed at the beginning. He's brought back as, you know, the ultimate embodiment of what he was before he died. And he has to, you know, recover his humanity and, you know, remember who he is and save the day by defeating the people who originally killed him.
Okay,
So, basic plot, the same.
one character.
Has anybody remember seeing this in theaters since it came out in the 90s? Did you see
I
it?
don't remember.
You don't remember?
I was smoking a lot of weed back
So
then. So
weirdly, this was a movie that they played in school instead of
What?
teaching us one day. Yeah, that's the first time I saw it. I saw it when I was, I think, a senior, and they just like rolled it in on a TV, and they were like, "All right, we're gonna let you guys watch a movie."
Universal Soldier.
It was Universal Soldier.
Is this
Wow.
movie rated R? I can't
Oh, yeah.
remember. It is?
very much so.
Why very much so?
Violence.
And Jean-Claude Van Damme's butt.
His naked.
Oh, he was
rear.
naked. That's right.
Yeah, and I remember them
didn't show
saying
any-
like, "Hey, there's some nudity in this. We expect you guys to behave like mature young adults." And like when they showed it, everybody was like, "What?"
There's his butt. He was wearing tube socks too, which I thought was hilarious. classic.
Oh, I miss tube socks.
That's honestly the only way I've ever seen a naked man.
Is in tube socks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Stop looking at me.
She just watches Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Or,
I'm like, you're not going to take those socks off, are you, babe?
Red Hot Chili Peppers concert videos.
Yeah. All right.
But also, interestingly enough, this was the first directorial and producer partnership between director Roland Emmerich and producer Dean Devlin, who they had met on Roland Emmerich's movie Moon 44 right before this. And that's kind of how their professional relationship started. And the success of Universal Soldier led to them making Stargate, because they were able to leverage that into another science fiction adventure film. And then the success of Stargate brought us Independence Day, which eventually led to Alex's second favorite movie, Godzilla.
1998 Godzilla.
Yep, 1998 Godzilla.
It gets far too much hate.
So you can
I
thank.
was just going to say, don't most people hate that movie?
Yes, most people do.
You can
I'm not
thank
most people.
Terrible
You can
movie.
thank the creation of the 1998 Godzilla.
Is that the Matthew Broderick
Universal Soldier.
Yes.
Godzilla? Okay.
Yeah. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. I understand that it's a terrible movie.
I get it.
Well,
And it's disrespectful to
Listen,
the Godzilla
I love
franchise.
Night of the Comet.
Well, you can thank Universal Soldier for that movie, because
All
that
right.
was the impetus for the creative team that created that movie.
Right on. So as this was the first time I watched this movie, I just want to say that I didn't really know what to expect, but because it was Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren, I was expecting like
More fighting?
like a lot more fighting. Like there was one small fight in the beginning, and then they're knocked down.
Yeah,
fight
this
at the
movie is
end.
way more intellectual than that.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that end fight scene was actually a reshoot. Like originally, the end of this movie was going to be very different than what we got.
Were they going to kill him off in
Yeah.
the bus chase?
No,
Because there's like no indication that he survived that.
no, they were going to basically Jean-Claude Van Damme's character was going to die at the end of the movie.
Oh.
Again. And
That'd be a bummer.
but you know the reshoot. So like they did test screenings, and the ending didn't really do much for the audiences. So they went back and months later and reshot that whole like kind of end fight scene.
Yeah, at the farm.
And that this is part of like the Jean-Claude Van Damme trope where it's like you got the rain fight scene,
Yeah.
which
I
is
think
Slow motion
the-
kicks in the rain.
I think the choreography from that, and I know that this is jumping ahead, but I think the choreography from that scene is the same choreography in Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
yeah. We'll talk about that next week.
We'll talk about that next week.
But yeah, so like this was like the start of like his whole like fighting in the rain motif. And it's kind of funny because like he's fighting in the rain and like you have like stuff on fire behind him in the rain,
Well, he threw a grenade, which grenades don't cause fires, but these ones
Sure,
do.
whatever.
They're like,
Just go with it.
Boom.
Fire and rain makes everything cool.
Yeah,
It does.
exactly. It's
And,
verifiable.
Dolph Lundgren goes out like a boss.
Dude, he
at
gets
the end of
thrown
this.
through a freaking hay like wood chipper machine after he gets skewed like a freaking pork chop.
Yeah, it's like there's this like this wheat harvester.
Yeah, okay, so they're at Jean-Claude Van Damme's character's home, which is a farm somewhere in I can't remember what
Oklahoma,
state. Is it
I think.
Oklahoma? So his parents live on a farm. His name is Luke, I think. I can't remember his last name, but I remember
Luke.
her. Luke, Luc. Luke.
You know what I just dawned on me?
What's up?
I watched this movie last week, but the phone rang, and I went and answered the phone, and I never finished watching the movie. I got up to the hotel scene, and I'm like, wait a second.
Hotels, that's like halfway.
I know. I was like,
Not
wait.
even.
I'm like, wait a second.
He's like, what movie are you guys
I
talking
don't remember
about?
that.
That's why you're
I
so
didn't
quiet.
finish
Was that the sequel? Which there was a very
terrible.
unnecessary sequel to this.
But I have seen it. I've seen it multiple
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
I just
Well, Vader, did you know that? So you know how the Universal Soldiers, they have those little headgears with like the eye patch type target thing on it. That was so like Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich were Star Trek fans, and they stole that from the Borg.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they're like, we kind of want these guys to look Borgish.
There you go.
They do kind of
They
look
do.
Borgish. Yeah.
That was intentional.
That's awesome. The one more thing before we move on, I want to talk about the fight at the diner because
Where he had just established his love of food.
I'm just exactly. He just starts eating.
It's so Thor.
I just want to say he's in the wrong.
Yeah.
He's stealing those guys' food. The dude tries to defend a small business owner, tries to kick out a freeloader and gets his ass handed to him. And then he just goes around and kicks all the patrons' butts. It's just, I'm like, that's a terrible thing.
Technically, he never said, I'm not paying for this.
He's like, I'm hungry.
They overreacted.
They really did. They just had to wait for the journalist to come back in and pay for the bill.
My mom will take care of it.
When the waitress was like, are you going to pay for that? And he's like, no.
Yeah, he has like no like because he's still kind of like part robot at this point. He or I should say zombie or whatever. He doesn't understand the concept of money.
Yeah.
So like he's just kind of like going through the motions for the most part.
Oh, I just remembered a scene when he was looking for his tracker in the gas station.
when she's looking for
I was
it?
cracking up. I was laughing so hard. He takes his pants off and he's like,
Look for something hard.
I'm like, gosh, these one-liners, man.
I love it when she finds it and she's cutting it out and she's like, are you okay?
He's like, yes, I'm fine. And the part he asks if his dick is supposed to be there. He's like, is that supposed to be there? She's like, yeah. No, that's meant to be there.
Well,
Don't worry.
because she obviously paused on it.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, why? What's up? Is that okay? Is that supposed to be there? And she's
That
like,
scene was so funny.
Who's the actress who played the reporter?
oh, shoot, I forget her name.
She's been in lots of stuff.
Yeah. Allie Walker.
Allie
Yeah,
Walker.
Allie Walker.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's been in lots of stuff.
Yeah,
What's on her IMDb?
she was actually in Sons of Anarchy. She played
okay.
The FBI.
the
agent.
FBI agent. Let's look her up. Profiler. I used to love that show. It was in the
never heard of
90s.
Yeah, she had some guest starring roles on The Shield.
There's a lot of people in this movie.
She was the bitchy girlfriend in While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock. With her new
yeah.
boobs. She was in Kazam. Bunch of stuff in the 90s. When the Bow Breaks, The Protector.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah, she's one of those character actresses that like you know her immediately when you see her.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's in everything.
There's a ton of actors in this movie that are all character actors from the 80s and the 90s and stuff.
Tiny Lister.
Yeah.
The guy from
Jerry
Holds Barred.
Orbach. You know, my favorite, Ralph Moeller, the big muscle dude who was in Gladiator. That's a good one. I like that guy.
Yeah. He was in the bar, right? Or
He's one of the Universal Soldiers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Right on. Any favorite scenes you guys want to talk about? Kadish, what's your favorite scene in this movie?
It's probably the big fight scene at the end. It's just such an iconic Van Damme type scene. And like I said, Dolph Lundgren goes out like a boss, getting impaled on a wheat harvester. And then like he doesn't even die from that.
No, he has to get chipped up.
Yeah. They have to turn on the wheat harvester to grind him up in order to kill him, which was great.
Jude, what's your favorite scene?
I have two. I love the beginning where he's making a necklace out of ears.
Oh yeah.
It's so crazy.
So crazy.
And I love the tracker scene when she's like looking for something hard.
Yeah. What about you, Vader?
You know, I've always thought that first scene at the dam was pretty cool where they're running down this front of it, you know. I think that was like the first time I ever saw something like that on a movie screen. You know, there's been lots of movies that have faked that since then.
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool when they did that.
That was real, wasn't it? They actually filmed that?
I think so. Maybe.
Looked like
I don't know.
Because it didn't look like any kind of like bad CG or anything. It looked like somebody was just scaling the Hoover Dam. Pretty cool.
Well, what about you?
I'm a mix between you two. I like the tracker scene where they're in the gas station. I died laughing at that point. And then the end fight scene where he gets chipped up into the hay baler.
Also, did we have more than one split scene in this movie where Jean-Claude's doing the splits? Because I know.
I wasn't doing a split watch.
I know he did it when they were in the hotel. You know, because he always likes to do the splits when he's in his boxer shorts or his underwear or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure it's the most comfortable way.
Yeah, but I know that like you know they track them down to the hotel and then they like shoot a rocket into the hotel and he like does the splits so like the rocket goes over his head like as it crashes through the window.
Was it just the one? I think it was just.
I think
the
it
one.
might just be the one.
I think it was. Yeah.
Got to be in there though.
But every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie has to have splits.
Wait, yeah.
So.
That's his thing.
Is there one that doesn't?
Turns
No,
out,
I don't think there is.
turns out it does not have an effect on whether or not you can have kids because he has babies.
There you go. Boom. That's the what's the muscle that is all attached up in there, the hip
The
flexor.
muscles from Brussels?
Never mind, it's a stupid question. All right. Let's move on real quick. Before we do that, I just want to remind everybody that you guys can go to saltynerdvideo.com and check out our YouTube channel where we have all of our podcasts available for you there in their full-length feature or split up for your listening pleasure. And you can go there, subscribe, like, leave comments, talk to us, let us know what you guys are thinking, and that would be awesome if you could. So just go to saltynerdvideo.com. Takes you straight to our YouTube channel where we have all of our awesome content and thumbnails made by me, which are great. That being said, let's move on to my favorite movie of the list, Timecop. This is the best out of these three. I love it.
It's also his highest grossing movie.
This is the first time I've ever seen it, was for this podcast. I rented it on Amazon. I was like, all right, let's check out Timecop.
I think I did see this one in the theater. This came out in 94. I think I did see this in the theater.
All right, on. Before we get into the weeds like we did last time, Kadish, why don't you set the stage for us? What is Timecop all about?
So in the far distant future of 1997, or 1994, I should say, time travel technology is discovered. And the U.S. government decides to create a police force to keep people from going back in time and messing up the timeline in an effort to basically get rich quick or whatever. So they create this Timecop force, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is a member of this. And at the beginning of the movie, his wife gets brutally murdered by a group of thugs, and his house explodes. And so morally, he refuses to go back in time to save his wife. So he's kind of like haunted by this whole thing, but it also drives him to make sure that no one else can go back and change anything. So he is part of this Timecop force, and he eventually uncovers a conspiracy by a presidential candidate who is using the technology to go back in time to steal money to fund his presidential campaign and also to change public opinion and put him ahead in the polls. And it is revealed as he goes up and butts heads with this politician that this politician was responsible for sending the guys who killed his wife back in 1994. So basically, the movie jumps from 1994 to 2004, and and that in the far future of 2004 is when the movie takes place.
I thought it was like 2030 or something.
No,
10 years.
2004.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know where I got that from.
You said you saw this movie in theaters?
Yeah, I think I did. I don't have like a visceral memory of it, but I'm pretty sure that I saw it in the theater.
Vader, did you see this movie in theaters?
I don't remember. I really don't. I
smoked a lot of weed back then.
No, not 94. That was before that. But 1991 was a blur. But, after that, maybe I just killed too many brain cells. I don't know. But there's a good chance I did see this in the theater. I don't. It was a long time ago.
Kadish, did you see it in theater?
No, I had to see this on, I think it was either HBO or Showtime.
Okay.
When it came out on paid cable.
So back then, it was there wasn't a 6-week window. It was like now if a movie comes out, let's wait for it to come out on streaming. But
yeah,
back then it was like 6 months or a year or something until it came out on VHS.
So like it went from the theater to paid cable and then to VHS. So you had to wait like a really long time for it to be available. Yeah. And Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies, like for some reason, they were just syndicated out the wazoo, so they were constantly played on TV, and that's how
every young adult watches all his movies.
That's how he got super popular. And I remember when this movie came out, and because I was not a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan when I was in high school, so like I just didn't care. But like I saw it when it came out on paid cable. I remember watching it and just being like, this is so stupid. and my opinion hasn't changed over the years.
You think it's stupid?
This movie has a lot of things going against it from my point of view. First of all, the time travel logic doesn't make any sense.
None.
And you know how much of a stickler I am.
Yeah, you are a stickler for that.
So the director of this movie, Peter Hyams, he's a guy who I absolutely do not like as a director. He's his own cinematographer, and I think his cinematography is terrible. And he was responsible for making some like pretty crappy movies that I feel like he kind of lucked out in the movies that he made, and so he got like this career that he didn't really deserve. And, this was a time when I was like even more of a film snob than I am now. So like, I would kind of see like his name on a movie and just be like, oh, a Peter Hames movie. This movie's
Stick your nose up at it.
Yeah, exactly. So him paired with Jean-Claude Van Damme at the time, because I remember like the trailers for this movie always included him like doing that ridiculous split in his boxer shorts. And I thought it looked like he was wearing a diaper. I even told Jude, I was like, oh, that scene where he does the splits in a diaper.
When does he do the split in this movie?
So like
when he's in his apartment
Yeah,
and he's asleep and the guy comes in to kill him with the laser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's a scene where a guy with another huge taser tries to shoot him, and it misses him on the floor and hits a pool of water.
Oh, that's right.
And Jean-Claude Van Damme jumps.
Does the split in the kitchen. Okay, yeah. I remember.
Splits on the kitchen counter.
Classic.
Yeah,
I love it.
And like that scene was all over the trailers.
Like you wouldn't do that if you could every day.
That scene was all over the trailers, and it just bugged me because it looks so stupid. But also, I'm not a Ron Silver fan, and Ron Silver plays the evil politician in this.
Spoiler, jeez.
But I've never really liked him as an actor. I felt like he was always a poor man's Al Pacino.
Huh.
And
That's probably
Now you say it.
Yeah.
Fairly accurate.
yeah, so like I've never liked anything that he's done. I just don't care for him.
Like whenever Pacino passes on a script, they're like, you know what?
Let's get that other guy.
Why don't you send it to Ron?
Can we get Ron to do this movie?
See if he likes it.
Pacino's
Ron
passing
Silver's
his
never seen a script before Pacino. I promise you that.
Can you imagine if Pacino was in this movie, though?
That would be great.
That'd be dope.
He could play that role perfectly.
Yeah, he could.
But all things being equal,
So you and me, we can't touch the same space. Okay? All right.
Like matter.
Oh, that's right.
yeah. So
Can't occupy the same matter in the same space.
one of the time travel rules in this movie is that like matter can't occupy like space. So like if you were to go back in time and touch yourself,
You would explode.
you'd both like die.
Wait, hold on. So that's something that Back to the Future said too, right? Because he's
No.
like, Marty, you can't go over there and like hang out with your parents, or you might cause some quantum flux or whatever.
Well, they said one of two things would happen in Back to the Future: either the entire universe would explode, or you just scream and pass out.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the latter.
Yeah, just scream and pass out.
But yeah, like the time, like that was like the one hard and fast time travel rule in Timecop was like matter can't occupy like space. So like a big concern of the Timecop, department was that someone goes back in time and screws up, such as the past version of themselves, and then the entire universe explodes or something like that. So somehow they know that like matter can't occupy like space, and that's like
Somebody probably did it.
Yeah, somebody did
Yeah.
it. And they,
so like that
for every warning label, there's an idiot who broke the rule.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's like the one rule that they know for a fact, like, okay, you can't do this. But then everything else is just kind of like, well, we're in a sled when we go back in time, but then when we go back in time, we're not in a sled.
That's
Yeah.
the one thing I
Yeah.
noticed.
But then,
and then
when
the travel-
we come back
And you just
in
in a
that.
sled.
Yeah.
And you just randomly enter the past in some random spot.
Yeah, random. There's no location.
And you already established that you can't go into the future because it hasn't happened yet. But when you go back in time, you're going back into the future. So how does that work? Like there's just a lot of stuff in this movie that doesn't make any freaking sense.
Well, they went back to the 20s, right? And like rigged the stock market. And then
Yeah.
they sent him back.
Great idea.
Yeah, they sent him back in time, but outside the building, and he just fell to his death. And it was like he jumped from
Well, that
the
was
stock
when
market
they
crash.
executed him. Yeah, they sent him
Yeah.
back to the exact same point.
Yeah.
So why they end up in front of a truck or over the river seems really strange.
That was the one thing that I was like, why are they in a sled? Like it's this big mechanism that they have to get into that like
Well, they wanted a set piece.
shoots them into the past, but then when they show up there, they're just like
But
in the middle of
sled
nowhere.
disappears too.
yeah, the sled does too.
Yeah,
and then when they
and-
come back,
They're back in the
They're
sled.
back in
I'm
the
like,
sled.
what's happening to all of these sleds? Where do they go?
They're SpaceX sleds. They use the same one.
oh, I did notice that the self-driving cars, like
Yeah, they're about 20 years ahead of
Yeah.
them, right?
I thought that
We
was
don't even have those now, really.
yeah,
Those
they do. The Teslas
Yeah,
drive
but
themselves.
they're not.
those look like a cross
Okayed
between a
for-
tank and a DeLorean.
yeah, it was. I thought
They were
that was so
so
funny.
bizarre looking.
Like whatever it was in the 90s that they thought the future was going to be like this like
Way
industrial
off, guys.
wasteland
Yeah.
and everything was like they have these like pipes on the outside of this car. I'm like our Teslas look like
Well,
race cars.
What I mean is we can't go outside and get in our car and go, take me home.
You can now if you buy
No,
a
you
Tesla.
cannot.
Yes, you can.
They're not approved.
No, they are. They're on the road right now.
There are self-driving cars.
Well, I know that.
You can buy a $100,000 Tesla and you can get in drunk as fuck
Well, I'm not doing it.
and
Okay.
and say, "Take me home," and it'll take you home.
Can we talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme's mullet in this movie?
So fun fact about
It was
that.
incredible.
Yeah, so he based his hairdo in this movie on Wolverine.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, like he wanted. I think he was kind of like trying to angle himself to be cast in X-Men, because X-Men was like kind of like going forward in Hollywood at this time.
2000, right? When it came out?
Well, it had been in development for like a really
Look at that
long
thing.
time.
That's a fantastic mullet.
That's
Yeah.
an amazing mullet.
perfect.
But
Oh, yeah. I was trying to get a picture of this mullet the whole movie.
But basically, like he looked at this as he's like, this is going to be my audition for Wolverine, because he's a short guy.
I think what he actually said was, "This is going to be my audition for Wolverine."
But they specifically modeled.
terrible.
That's exactly what he
They
sounds
specifically
like, sir.
modeled his hairdo on
Sorry.
Logan.
There's too much crosstalk. Hold on. Let
Sorry.
Kadish finish.
They specifically modeled his hairdo on Logan from the Wolverine comics.
It was. I think he pulled it off.
Yeah.
Perfectly. And
Solid.
I would have. I mean, if it wasn't for Hugh Jackman being so awesome as Wolverine, I think Jean-Claude would have been
Spot on. Yeah.
perfect for it. I want to talk about this movie because there's a lot of things that I love about it, which I didn't expect to like so much because I was like, oh, it's another corny like 90s action movie, whatever. It's got freaking Mia Sarah Sloane. I did not know that. Naked.
Oh yeah,
Naked.
Okay, so that
Very
little
naked.
like the only movie that I've ever seen her in is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I've had a crush on her since I was a kid. And then I saw her in this movie, and I was like, "Oh, this is the best movie ever!" Like I forgot that she was even like an actress. I don't know. I watch her in Ferris Bueller, and that's like the only thing I know her
She
from.
only existed in your memory as Ferris Bueller's girlfriend.
Yes. And then I saw her in this, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I was so excited.
She's also in a
In
Tom
more
Cruise
ways than
movie.
one.
In more ways than one. And she was great in this movie. I also think that this movie has the best heroes. I think his character, Jean-Claude's character in this movie is probably the best one out of the three movies that we're talking about so far. I think it's well developed. It's got good motivation. I think I thought it was great.
He's got
And his
layers.
acting was on point too. I thought it was way better than the other movies.
Well, you know what's funny about this is that so you know how I talked about how I don't like Peter Hyams movies.
Yeah.
as a director, he's not an actor's director, so like he actually didn't work with Jean-Claude on this. So Jean-Claude was basically just playing himself in this movie.
That's why
That's why it came out so good is because he was just like, well, I'm not going to try to act. I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah.
And in the movies where he does that, he's usually really good.
Yeah. He's charming. He's
Yeah.
a charming dude.
Yeah. I thought this movie was great for his acting career. I thought it was perfect.
They also have like one of the best Jean-Claude set pieces ever, which is like a quintessential warehouse fight scene.
Yes.
Where like he's basically fighting people in this like microchip warehouse in the past, and
It was in the future, wasn't it?
no, it was in the past.
Oh.
It depends on where you are.
So Ron Silver goes back in time to prevent himself from backing out of this technology deal that would have allowed him to keep billions of dollars for his presidential campaign. And so he goes back in time with a group of the most 90s thugs you've ever seen in your life.
Oh, God. The mullets, the trench coats,
The trench coats.
the medallions. It was
Did anybody have a ponytail?
the boots.
They're all wearing
The guy
like,
punching his fist.
they're all wearing sports
Oh,
coats.
God. This is the like right out of
Thugs
a
are awesome.
Yeah,
Right out of a-
wearing sunglasses.
yeah,
It's thugs out of a comic book.
totally
Totally.
yeah.
So
Ooh.
like he goes
if
back.
we ever start a band, Comic Book Thugs.
There you go.
That's the band name.
Hashtag.
So he goes back in
Copyright.
time to prevent himself from pulling out of this multi-billion-dollar deal. And while he's there, Jean-Claude Van Damme shows up with his new partner to try to stop them. And basically, this big fight breaks out between Jean-Claude Van Damme and Ron Silver's thugs. And it's the most quintessential 90s action like set piece that I've ever seen, because it really is like it's in a warehouse with all these like weird like like vats and
It's amazing.
and canisters and
Yeah.
barrels.
This set has been in 1,000 movies, probably.
Probably.
Batman, RoboCop.
But like because it's a technology manufacturing plant, they have these big like kind of I guess vats of like liquid nitrogen, and at one point Jean-Claude Van Damme kicks a pipe and it hits this guy with just the spray of liquid nitrogen, and half his body gets frozen. And
that was great.
And then Jean-Claude kicks his frozen half of the guy's body, and it shatters, and the guy screams and then falls over the railing to a terrible death by crashing through a bunch of microchip like things in a pool of techno goo.
It was fantastic.
Techno goo.
I thought it was great. That fight scene was awesome.
Yeah.
I have no complaints.
And it's one of those things where like he's hiding behind 2 barrels of flammable liquid that keep getting shot by bullets and leaking onto the floor. And you're just waiting for these things. And he's just hiding behind them like it's nothing. And it's like, dude, bullets
I'm safe back here.
Yeah, bullets are being fired into those barrels. And eventually he pushes one of them off because it's on this like lift, this crane lift.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And he just like casually jumps onto the catwalk off of him.
We need to do a toxic waste themed show.
Oh, there we
someday.
go. Every toxic waste fight, movie, every industrial fight in a movie.
Right.
I'm down.
But it's also weird that, so like the Ron Silver character, the politician guy.
I liked him. I thought he was a cool villain.
He is the biggest jerk to his past self.
Oh my God.
Hey man, lay off the candy bars, okay?
Yeah.
He punched him in the face, and he's like, if you can't get punched in the face and stick with me, then you don't deserve this job or something like that. Like, you shouldn't be here. I'm like, dude.
Wait, he can't
He's
punch
like-
himself in the face. What are you talking about?
No, remember his assistant.
Oh, his assistant. he
Yeah.
punches
Oh,
in the
you
face.
guys were talking about his like younger
No,
self.
yeah, when he goes back and talks to himself, and he's
Yeah.
so mean to
Yeah,
him.
he's a dick. No, that guy's a total
That's probably
dick.
why he's a dick today. It's
Yeah.
because he did that to himself.
Exactly.
What I noticed about is when he was in the same room with his younger self and his older self, his younger self was always super quiet.
Yeah.
Never really said a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
And also like when he's explaining how like matter can occupy like space, I'm like, dude, you're really close to your former self.
yeah.
You know, when you're telling him about that, maybe you should back off a little bit. But yeah, like
Calls him an idiot.
Yeah, he has this line where he's like, "Do me a favor, lay off the candy bars." But like in every other scene that he's in, he's always eating something. In the future,
It's like
it's so weird.
there was a line from the 1998 Godzilla movie where the mayor had the bag of Hershey Kisses, and he's like, "You leave my candy alone." It just reminded me of that. I
Are
don't
you
know
just
why.
bringing that movie up on purpose?
Yes, it's subliminal. We're gonna talk about it one day.
I was tormenting him earlier on Twitter about this stupid movie, and now he's brought it up 3
About
times.
Godzilla?
today.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Or Jurassic Park 4 or 3, technically.
Any of them. Oh, you mean Godzilla?
Yeah.
Is technically Jurassic. It would be 4, I guess,
Yeah.
because it was 1998. No, 2001 was 3, so it would have been 3, and number 3 would have been 4.
the only thing that would have made that movie better is if Jean-Claude Van Damme played a Ferris Bueller's role.
Matthew Broderick's role.
Broderick.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have made that movie
worm
better
guy?
is if it had not been made.
That's right.
It's a great movie. You guys leave it alone.
It's a really bad movie. I remember watching that in the theater, and when Godzilla's chasing the helicopters,
Yeah.
I was with a bunch of military guys because we were watching it on base where my dad was stationed. And every pilot in the theater was like, "Pull up, pull up." It was
Derailed.
Yeah,
It's a fantastic movie.
So anyway, Timecop.
yeah.
Yeah, time out. Got you to talk about Godzilla. I don't know what else to say about this movie. I had a ton of fun watching it as like
It
a
is a
first time
fun movie.
viewer.
Yeah.
It is
It's a
good.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's the pinnacle of
The love
Van Damme,
story.
right?
Yeah, it's Van Damme's probably like not only highest grossing movie, it's probably his best movie.
Yeah.
And it's actually based off of a Dark Horse comic book
right? Yeah.
that is nothing like the movie. like they changed a lot for the movie.
Oh man, you imagine the nerds nowadays. It's not accurate to the source material.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, it was such an obscure comic to begin with, and the guys they basically made the comic in order to make the movie.
What?
Yeah, because the guys who created the comic wrote and produced the movie version, and they created the comic, I think, as a way to kind of sell or pitch the idea for the movie, and that's how the movie came to be. But the comic book is about. It's the same character. He goes back in time to the 1930s to stop a guy from robbing a diamond mine. And so he brings the guy back from the diamond mine heist, but there's a robot that the guy brought back with him that stayed in the past and is like killing a bunch of people. So he then has to go back and stop the robot. And that was like the comic book. Had nothing to do with the plot of the movie.
That's pretty funny. Final thoughts on Timecop. Favorite scenes? Vader, go.
I liked it when they occupied the same space and they turned into this gelatinous blob of jello. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, the special effects in this movie are very early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Early CGI.
Very early CGI.
Yeah, it was cool, though.
Like the traveling back in time effect where they're like kind of going through like
a bubble,
the
right?
ripples.
The water.
It was very Stargate.
Like that was pretty cool, but like all the other special effects were like really weird, like not very well done in my opinion. And there was a part. So a big set piece in this movie is the first time we get to see them actually travel back in time, and it's with Jean-Claude Van Damme and his new partner, and they're in the time sled, right? And the time sled is basically this vehicle that on a track that goes like it reaches 88 miles per hour.
Pretty much, right?
And then like
And if they don't get the right algorithm, it crashes into a wall, right?
It crashes into a wall. Because they
That's
can't.
the Vollmer twins.
Yeah, they can't be bothered to have a safe.
Two little dots on the wall.
Yeah, to have a safe like little distance for the sled.
I remember that.
But in that first scene, though, so Jean-Claude Van Damme had been doing a series of commercials in Japan for this gum. It's like this black gum. And so like he was getting paid so much for that he like kind of did like a sly like product placement in this movie where like he takes out this piece of black gum and is like chewing it and then he puts it on like the dashboard of.
Is that what that was for?
I didn't know that, but that's funny.
I didn't know that either. That is funny.
Yeah. So like it was Jean-Claude Van Damme getting paid by chewing some black gum.
What's your favorite scene in this movie, Kadish?
Gosh.
He hates this movie.
Really? I thought it was so much fun. I didn't care.
I mean, I think the thing that sticks out the most in my mind, even though I wouldn't call it my favorite scene, but it's the thing that like when I think of this movie, I think of it, is like the splits in the diaper, but also the rollerblading purse snatcher that Jean-Claude Van Damme stops with his split kick.
Yep.
And he never touches the guy, but he doesn't even turn him in.
No, he just lets him go.
Yeah.
It's got better things to do.
He makes him give the purse back. And then the guy just like skates
and then
away.
that poor lady feels so obligated to say thank you when he gives her her purse back. Did you notice that? She was like, thank you.
Yeah, the lady he just tried to rob.
Yeah.
Like there's so many weird things about this movie that, you know, if you don't think about it too much, it's not a big deal.
I just watched it and I was like, this is a great movie.
I don't
I was
think
probably drunk. I don't know.
I don't think too hard about any Van Damme movie.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're not
It's important that you don't.
But the time travel logic in this movie,
Don't even get started.
you know what it reminds me of? Really, it reminds me of Looper. Like you remember that scene where like Jean-Claude Van Damme kicks the past version of Ron Silver in the face, and then the future version of Ron Silver all of a sudden like gets a scar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Looper was very much the same thing, where like if you did something to the past version of a character, then all of a sudden it would show up on like the future version.
There's
of
the
them.
title.
Looper.
Ryan Johnson's ripped off Time Cop.
Looper was Ryan Johnson movie, right?
Yeah, it was.
I got in an argument with my wife last night about him.
We're not talking about that guy.
I'm just really quick.
No.
Let's hear it.
Just let him talk.
No, go
You
ahead.
can cut it out later.
She saw an advertisement for that stupid movie he came
Knives
out with,
Out?
Knives Out. She goes, I want to watch that movie. I'm like, not with me, you don't. Why? Because it's a Ryan Johnson movie. He's forbidden from this house. And she goes, what do you mean forbidden? If I want to watch that movie, I'll watch that movie. Not with me, you won't. And we went on for like 5 minutes. It was bad. And so
Here's my nitpick with you just reminded me of it when you said about the scar, is that like that shit happens, like the past version got the scar, and then the future version had a magic scar. But then like Jean-Claude Van Damme is actually like doing shit that changes the future, and he goes back to the future and has no memory. I know I'm spoiling the ending for you, but he has like no memory of the last 10 years of marriage with his wife and his child, who's now like 9 years old. He's like, what the I've got a kid? Oh, and he's crying and hugging, and I didn't know. It didn't make any kind of sense.
nope.
And that's another thing is like, so like they go back in time to try to stop the timeline from being changed, but it never seems to change until he comes back that one time after the warehouse fight and everything's different, and nobody at the Timecop place who should know that stuff has changed knows stuff has changed.
It's literally their job to know.
Yeah. And they act like, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting so silly, Billy?
What do you mean we're best friends?
Yeah. Like, yo, you guys
chili 100
deal
times.
with
It's goulash.
time travel. Why is there no, like the guy comes back from the past and you don't have a sit down with him about everything that's, here's what it is right now. Has anything changed for you? No? Cool. Nobody has a conversation about it. They all just act like, you're crazy. What do you mean? It's so silly.
I also like how the first time that Jean-Claude Van Damme meets Ron Silver's character, he basically tells him, like, I know you're the main bad guy, and I'm coming for you. And it's like, dude, you could have played that a little bit cooler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jude, do you have a favorite scene?
I really like the interactions with the wife between young Van Damme and old Van Damme.
Yeah.
And he's like, make sure you tell him you're pregnant. And then he comes back and he's like, did you tell him? She's like, well, he wouldn't let me. I'm like, you're talking about the same guy.
My favorite scene is anything with Mia Sara.
You like the sex scene?
Yep.
That was your favorite?
Yep.
Would it have been weird if she had had a sex scene with old and young Van Damme?
A threesome?
That would have
Oh, come on.
been... Kids can't occupy the same space.
Were you huffing rosewater while you were watching that scene, Alex?
No.
That's the name of the title. Can't occupy the same space.
She's got more than one space for them to occupy. Don't worry.
Don't cheat.
Vader just fist bumped Jude.
That's awesome. Hey, before you time travel back, I got an idea.
Wow. I've always wanted to try this.
And it's not even cheating. That's the Pornhub version.
Oh, shit. I'm going to look for that.
I bet you it's out there. All right.
I did learn one little fun fact while I was doing my Van Damme research. Did you know that he was originally cast to be the Predator in Predator?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
He's a little short for that, though.
He either quit or got fired after like 2 weeks.
No, what happened was...
of course he knows.
Of course he knows.
Here's what happened.
I was there.
So originally the Predator was going to be a completely different monster, and he was cast as that monster. And then when they decided to change the monster, they needed a bigger guy. So like, they
somebody who could stand up next to Schwarzenegger and make him look small.
They decided to lay him off. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah, but that was before he was anybody.
Before Predator,
it looked like more of a praying mantis type, like insectoid creature.
Huh. Okay.
Did it do
How
splits?
come we did Van Damme month before Schwarzenegger month?
I don't know.
Because it's Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, okay.
Hashtag Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I thought it was Jean-Claude Van June.
Either one works. But because it's a J. Should
we let the patrons vote?
No, it's done already. The hashtag has been created.
Okay, fine.
No, it's because it matches his name, JCVD, and it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. So
You like September Schwarzenegger?
Sure.
Well, I thought we were going to do Seagal.
Seagal September.
Oh, no.
It'll be half and half. We'll split it up.
Fuck that. I can't stand
Seagal
that guy.
Timber.
I don't like him either.
He makes Van Damme movies look like high cinema.
Yeah. His movies are so bad.
Oh.
Fun fact. Did you know that originally Demolition Man was going to be starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal?
Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
Wait, who is who?
So this is why it didn't happen. So both Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal refused to play bad guys in their movies.
They do, don't they?
So like the dispute came down to who was going to play
Wesley
the cop
Snipes'
and who was going to play the bad guy. And neither of them could agree on who was going to play the bad guy. And so they both passed on the project, and then it went to Stallone.
Oh, that could have been the most
and Wesley
awesomely
Snipes.
bad movie of all time.
I'm glad we got what we got because Wesley Snipes and
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
It's a hell of a movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Jean-Claude Van Damme is
What else is funny?
is a huge Stallone fan. Like he idolizes idolizes Stallone, and the only time he ever broke his rule to play a bad guy
Was for
Expendables 2, solely because the only person who can beat him is Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
I need to watch those movies.
Bad guy though.
Yeah.
He was really good in that movie.
Well, that was he was one of his inspirations for like why he wanted to be in movies. He wanted to be a star like Stallone.
That's all connected. That's awesome.
Yeah, but Timecop is definitely peak Van Damme.
Yeah. I loved it.
I don't know. Cyborg's pretty high up there.
A lot of people, I had that. Okay, this happens every time I put a post out there. What's your favorite movie? There's only 4 options I can put on there. Inevitably, somebody's gonna be like, "Why didn't you put Cyborg on there?" And I was like, "Bro."
My favorite part about Cyborg is the bad guy.
I haven't seen it.
He's just so dumb.
I haven't seen
Yeah,
Cyborg.
you'll have to watch it.
But this was like Jean-Claude Van Damme's pinnacle, and after this, his career kind of started to do.
Well,
like
this
a
is when
slow
he
slide.
developed that $10,000 a week cocaine habit,
Yeah.
and he had to just start churning out movies to support his habit.
But also, it was kind of like on the downswing of the action hero type thing, and I think the movie he did with Dennis Rodman. What was that one called?
Don't look at me.
What movie is this?
Impact?
Was it Double Impact?
No, I'll look it up.
Like he did a movie with Dennis Rodman, and that was kind of like the nail in his coffin in terms of like
God, I can't imagine.
theatrical movies. This was like at Dennis Rodman's peak height of popularity.
Double Team.
Double Team, that's what it was. Yeah, I can remember. I actually saw that in the theater. It was terrible.
What are we? So we're doing more Jean-Claude next week. What movies are we talking about?
So next week we're going to be talking about Hard Target, which was the movie he did with John Woo, who is the greatest action director of all time. And then we're going to talk about Street Fighter.
Grumble. I don't want to talk about Street Fighter.
Fighter?
I know.
Street Fighter, yes.
Yikes.
Which was his second highest grossing movie of all time, next to Timecop.
I'm very excited for Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about his Amazon original series, Jean-Claude Van Johnson, which Jude and I started rewatching it last night.
It's so good. It's gold.
And you know what? When we first saw it, like we just watched it like cold, and we were like, oh, we know Jean-Claude Van Damme. But now that we've like seen some of his movies and then
Like
started
fresh
watching it,
off of having watched his earlier stuff, it's so much
so much better. It's so much better.
Yeah.
Like if you watch do a marathon of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies and then watch Jean-Claude Van Johnson, it's so much funnier than it normally is.
He makes so much fun of himself and his tropes. Oh, it's comedy gold.
Yeah, it's really a work of art.
I'm really glad that he has a sense of humor about it and he can make these meta jokes because it makes it so much. It makes him more of like a charming person. And the show is hilarious. I'm about halfway through it. I gotta finish the rest by next week, but
it's heavily influenced by Timecop.
yeah.
So if you watch Timecop,
Hey, you remember that time in Timecop? When we did this and this and this.
What is it, Philippe or whatever? His doppelganger.
We should
Don't talk about it yet.
talk about this next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Save it for next week.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast, all about Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's for hashtag JuneClaude Van Damme. Use that hashtag and tweet out your favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme moments, and we'll respond to them. Thank you very much for listening. If you would like to support the podcast, you can go to saltynerdpodcast.com. That takes you directly to the podcast platform of your choice, whether it's Apple and or Android. And you can leave a review, leave 5 stars. And if you do leave a 5-star review, contact us. Hit us up on Twitter. My DMs are open to the public. You can say, hey, man, I just left you a 5-star review. You will get stickers for doing that. So help us out, help grow the podcast, and help us get a bigger audience by leaving a review and subscribing. And where can we find everybody on the socials, starting with Matthew Kadish?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish on Twitter.
Okay. And Jude, where can they find you?
At I am Juju on Instagram and Twitter.
Right on. And the Barbarian, where can they find you, man?
At Matt Vader 74.
On
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Twitch,
all that good stuff. All right, guys. You can find me at salty_nerd on Twitter. And hit me up there mostly. Instagram if you want. Salty Nerd Podcasts, and Discord. We have a Discord server too. So just search Salty Nerd Podcast on Discord. You can hit us up there. Got all kinds of cool stuff going on. Not really, but maybe someday. Have a good night.